Hey, welcome back. In this week, we're going to be talking about how to break free of the inner blocks or glass ceilings that you have. Now, according to Dr. Maltz's book, Psycho-Cybernetics, which I highly recommend you read, Dr. Maltz talks about how our self-image defines the realm of possibilities for us, and we can't achieve more than our self-image. So to be able to really achieve the goals that we have set, which is really outside of a comfort zone. So what we need to do is really start shifting and breaking through those boundaries to shift to a higher level of identity. So there is a framework I'm going to be using today, and I want to just go over an overview of the framework and then give you an example of how I've helped a client to work through her limiting beliefs. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to apply that framework to your situation. So first of all, just an overview is there are two phases to this process. So phase one is where you actually look at the weaker side of yourself. And the second phase is to look at the spiritual truth. And then what we want to do is we want to forge a relationship, a strong bond between these two so that we can actually, alchemize a much stronger identity for ourselves. So the first phase is the question to ask yourself is look at what area in your life are you most stuck in, or what do you want to create more in? What area do you actually want to create more in? Second is, what's your story? What are you blaming for holding you back from achieving what you want? Then from that story, what's the core belief that's reflected back? What's the core belief or identity that's coming out of it? And then you want to know, really tap into and observe yourself and ask yourself, how are you showing up, or self-sabotaging behaviors are displayed that actually support this story. So let's go an example here. So let's say I'm going to use a client situation, and I'm just going to name her Mel, for short Mel. And Mel wants to, she suffered an abusive relationship and she came out of it, and now she's onto a new relationship. But that wasn't where it started. It started way back in her childhood. So she's finding herself wanting to really take her life to the next level and to really make an impact to other women and help other survivors to be able to overcome their traumas and create a new life for themselves. But what she's experiencing is that she is still not able to get past the fact of her dad leaving when she was very young. And she is constantly blaming herself and, taking that experience and telling herself that, she's not good enough. And so what she wants to create is create more in her career, in her business, be able to, expand her self-image and identity so that she can be more confident in, pursuing the projects that she wants. And what's her story? She's blaming her childhood, the fact that she didn't have a dad when she was growing up. And what's the core identity that's coming up for her is that she's saying that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, that's why he left. And so how is she showing up? And the self-sabotaging behavior that she demonstrates is that when, even though she's setting goals and achieving goals, she doesn't feel that she's good enough. And instead of celebrating, she kind of beats herself up for not being perfect. And she's not really allowing herself to enjoy the fruits of her work. So she's going through this loop of critical inner dialogues, self-doubt, frustration, and because of her identity that she's not worthy, she feels as if she needs to prove herself, and so work harder and really feel like efforting her way through her work, flying through and It's kind of like a lot of tension, a lot of strain, very masculine energy. And so she knows that something needs to change. She knows that that's not going to be, constructive going forward. She's going to just end up burning herself out and just being unfulfilled and frustrated all the time, no matter how hard she works and how much success she gets. So the next phase for her is, after identifying this, the next phase is to help her to connect to the spiritual truth. And her spiritual and deeper truth is that she's worthy of love, worthy of unconditional love. And the fact that she can stand for herself and be the stand for herself unconditionally. And when she stands for herself unconditionally and love herself unconditionally and accept herself unconditionally and be compassionate, then nothing can take that away from her. So understanding that and really, realizing that she can't go back to the past to find out why her dad left. And, because it's impossible to go back to the past. But what she can do now is really to shift the story, and she can really, look at it from a different angle, a different perspective, and realize that maybe her dad loved her so much, that's why he left, so that he could give her more space to, and not be a burden on her. And so she realized that really she held the power within herself to reframe, and she held the power within herself to love herself unconditionally. And that, that is where her power lies. So after she accepted this spiritual truth and realizing that there is this side of her which is capable of unconditional love, and that she's the source of it, then the next step is to look at how she can show up in new ways that will reflect that truth. So the new way of being for her was to really, instead of, the critical inner dialogue, is to actually step in and become the nurturing parent to her inner child. The part of her that still exists, that is craving love, craving attention, and wants to be accepted unconditionally, and wants to be loved unconditionally. And so to replace those critical inner dialogues with much more nurturing dialogues and conversations, to tune in to the needs of this inner child, and to really praise herself, to celebrate with herself. And if she's tired, to allow herself to rest. If she wants to play, to allow herself to play. And so her life changed in such a way that, after doing, some mentoring with me, and then she's going on to further mentoring, which is the Thinking Results program, she started to really release the tension in herself, release the demand on herself, and start to embrace herself for who she is, starting to free herself to, take up sports. She's learning how to surf. And in the process of this release and mastering the art of surrender, the flood doors of abundance start to open up to her. And what happens is that, initially when she was struggling to find, women to interview for her documentary, she suddenly found herself, swamped by all these women from these various community groups, where they're all putting up their hands to be interviewed. And now she's like, she's pretty much just, filled all her seats, doubled the initial number. I think it's about 80 women now that she's interviewed for a documentary. She's in the process of editing that. But she's also, taking off so much more. She's studying, she's creating a foundation, she's creating a coaching business as well. Now, another surprising thing that happened is that her dentist told her that he's very happy with her results because he's noticing that she's starting to grind her teeth much less now. And that's because like the tension in the body is starting to reduce and she's starting to really relax and, you know, surrender into herself and be okay with herself now. So that's an amazing story. And so now it's what I want you to do is to start to apply this to your own situation and just take you through the process. So the first phase is take an area that you're stuck in or you want to create more in, and ask yourself what that is. Is it health? Is it relationships? Is it finance? If you want to, you know, really upgrade your career, what is the area that you really want to work more on? And what's the story, or what are you blaming for not getting results in that area? You know, in Mel's case, she was blaming the fact that she didn't have a dad, and that's her story. What are you blaming? And what's the core identity that's coming out of this story? So for her, it's I'm not enough. And what you want to do is that you can just really, you know, sit and just take a breath. And in the midst of this story, feel a part of your body that is kind of constricted and coming up with this kind of strong feeling. You know, where is that constriction? And place your hand over it. And what you want to do is just kind of sit and listen in to what's coming up. So some core beliefs, core identities that come up is I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not wanted, I'm not loved. And there's all sorts of things that come up. Just name it for yourself and just hold on to it for the moment. And what you want to do is just breathe through that. And then what you want to do is you want to really ask yourself and be really as honest as you can. How are you showing up, and what self-sabotage behavior are you, really, leaning into or taking up that is supporting this core identity? So it's for Mel. Mel's case is that she is beating herself up no matter how much success. She's beating herself up. She has negative inner dialogue, critical dialogue, and she's feeling as if she needs to prove herself with a lot of work and a lot of effort. And so she's like, getting into a lot of action and exhausting herself at the same time. So what's that for you? How are you actually, demonstrating this, and what's your self-sabotaging behavior? For myself, I know that I like to disappear myself. I like to kind of like invisible myself. And after a while, and I think that's because I kind of feel overwhelmed and I feel like, oh my God, I don't know enough, and I see other people achieving more. And then so I start to kind of like, disappear and shut up and not even give any effort in, because I believe that other people can do it better. And so kind of like I'm giving up my seat, my place in this world to others because I believe that they could do better. And my corporate identity that I have is that I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, right? And that started off in childhood. So what's that coming up for you? Take a moment and really reflect on that and be as honest as yourself as possible. And then what you want to do is, as you move into phase 2, is to take a deep breath and then connect to the spiritual truth of who you are. And so you have this is the ego, the conditional, the critical side of you. And this is the side of you that's whole, that's complete, that's unconditional, that's non-judgmental. And you want to sit into and lean into that part of yourself that you know is there, that is the source of your power, that is the source of infinite wisdom. And you want to look into maybe where that shows up into your life, right? And so this inner spiritual truth is the part of you that knows that you were born to experience and express great love, and it knows that you're here to really make an impact and difference to this world with your gifts, and it knows that you deserve to be financially supported for the value and contribution that you bring to others. So sit into that truth for the moment. And what you want to do is you really want to bring this part of you and forge a strong relationship with this deeper truth and spiritual truth of who you are, so that you can alchemize a much more stronger identity for yourself. And then in this place, really look at how you can show up, what new ways you can show up that supports this truth. And it's really useful for you. What you could do is look at the areas in your life that you are showing up in your brilliance, showing up in your zone of genius, when you show up in the most confidence manner. And it could be when you're with your children, it could be when you're at work, it could be doing some sort of hobby that you're really good at. Maybe it's gardening, maybe it's in the kitchen, maybe. And it's whatever it is for you that you are in your zone of genius. And you just take that and start to apply that way of being and really notice how you are being. Notice your physiology, notice how the beliefs are coming up for you. Maybe you believe that, that you're just, really a great artist. Maybe you paint and you know that whatever, you're very confident with your colors, you're confident in what you paint, you know that whatever you look at, you're just great at painting it and you're going to be able to do it. Or maybe you at work, you know that whatever task you're given, that you're going to ace through it. So it's whatever that place is that you feel that you're completely standing in your wholeness, your power, and it's a very strong feeling of knowing that no matter whatever comes up, you know that you're going to be able to show up and and really do it in your full capacity. And in Mel's case, she knew that at the end of the day, after understanding that she is a source of her own unconditional love, and that she, nothing can take that away from her, that no matter what happens, even if she did, if she failed in any projects or anything like that, that she won't be abandoned, right? She's not going to die. Nobody's going to abandon her. And she's still going to be there no matter what. So after, understanding that truth, that she start to let go and be okay with it. Be okay with being imperfect. Being okay with letting yourself play. Being okay with really leaning in and knowing that the universe has her back and starting to surrender. As she opened these gates of leaning in and surrendering and seeing the evidence of how the universe supports her success and sending her all these amazing women her way in her projects and starting to, see serendipities happen in her life, she started to let go and surrender and know that it's okay. She can do the best that she can, and that the universe is here to support her and she is here to co-create her destiny with it. And so what is that deeper truth for you that you need to lean into and tap into the way of being that you know that you're capable of, and start to look at how you can actually take that and apply it into the weaker area of the life, the area that you feel most stuck in. And so once, Mel has done that, what she does is that she's able to take that same process and apply it to her studies and, and really let that, consolidate and alchemize that. And so it's slowly expanding her identity in all facets of her life as well. And, and through the program, it's, becoming the leader that she needs to be so that she can start, coaching women to create new life for themselves, to become the confident, stand and source of their own transformations. And that's what, my mentoring does. I really help you to take parts of yourself and start to build that dimension, that complete dimension of who you are, and help you to mentor you through the process of different, skills and capacities to build out that dimension and identity that you need to become to achieve the goals that you set for yourself. So, goals are not for us to get, but goals are for us to grow. And it's really about discovering who we're really capable of becoming and what we're really capable of being. So I hope this has helped you to understand that it's really the way of being that needs to be shifted. And as you shift the way of being, you change the way that you think and feel about yourself, and you start to magnetize, things and towards you, because you're now at a different level of frequency and vibration, because your attitude, which is the consolidation of the way that you think and feel and you act, the attitude changes. And instead of efforting your way towards things, you start to allow things to come into your life effortlessly, because you're reducing resistance in your energy. So as we merge these parts together, that's a beautiful alchemy that happens. So go for this exercise, and if you need any help, just let me know. We can discuss it in the upcoming weekly catch-up calls.